So don't just think of this as a dollar value of like, oh man, it's going to cost me a couple $100 to have a tax pro do this for me. Yes, it's going to cost you a couple $100, but what it's actually giving you in value is relief, peace, less anxiety, and you know it's done right.
Welcome to the Fiscal Foxhole, the podcast proving you don't need a degree in finance, just some grit, a game plan, and maybe a sense of humor. Your hosts are retired Army veteran Rob Moore and retired Marine veteran Omen Quelvog. Together, they'll help you dodge financial landmines, call in the air support on your savings, and laugh at the ridiculous money mistakes we've all made. If you can survive mandatory fund days, you can survive personal finance. Welcome to the Foxhole.
Welcome to the Foxhole. My name is Omen Quelvog, and I'm your host today with my other host, my co-host, Rob. I'm having a temporary emotional recession. Moore.
It's 3 for 3. Oh no, I know what you're talking about. I am not.
Yeah.
My day
Exactly
has not gone well. Yeah. This is the punishment for yesterday. I felt so good about everything happening. Nothing in particular, just seemed like things were good and kind of enjoy. It was Super Bowl Sunday. So I was enjoying the day. Everything felt great. I woke up this morning. It's just one kick between the legs after another. The highlight of my bad day. We have multiple computers for the business. I've got my desktop. I have a laptop I do a lot of work on. And as I sat down to do a little bit of work on the couch early, it did not turn on. And the nice manufacturer offered to repair it. It's under warranty. So that's great. I'm sending it back, but it's going to take 2 weeks. Cannot go 2 weeks without a laptop. So Everman Prosperity will be in possession of a brand new laptop tomorrow. That and plus a few little things. I just, this like test my resilience today. No big deal. I'll get through it. This too shall pass, right?
I mean, I know exactly how that feels when you just have a day when it's just one thing after another. And it doesn't, by the end of the day, it just doesn't take much to tip you over the edge. So sorry you're having a bad day, but yeah, I'm sure things will get better here shortly, especially when you get a new laptop. Runs faster. It's always enjoyable to get a new laptop anyway. So
yeah. But now my punishment is I have to sit here and talk to you for an hour.
On your desktop. Oh, geez.
Yeah, no.
Just grinding away.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
How are things down your neck of the woods today?
Yeah, I mean, they are still cold. Like, I cannot believe how long this cold is holding on. I will admit I did something really, really dumb on Saturday and went for a run, and it was a feels like temperature of -3. And that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever done, or we're getting close to it anyway. I almost quit in the middle of it. I had a couple guys with me who were equally as dumb. They encouraged me to stick it out, and I did, but came home and just sat in front of the fire for the rest of the day.
The dumbest thing you've done so far to date.
Yeah, I mean, we'll leave to date. We'll leave some room. We'll leave some room. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you are definitely an addict. Remember we talked about, what episode was just a couple ago, we talked about being addicted to things. And you were like, get addicted to something. You're clearly addicted.
Right.
If you ran outside on Saturday, then you're clearly addicted to running. Good for you.
Yeah, it hurt. Anyway, well, hey man, I know that we are a week and a half post Super Bowl by the time this thing releases, but in our last episode, we made some bets about how the Super Bowl was going to go down. And because we're only one day removed from it when we're doing this recording, we've got it fresh in our mind right now. I thought we would do a little bit of playback over what those bets were and how'd we do.
Well, first of all, quick edit. It was 2 episodes ago. By the time this releases, it'll be 2 that we made the bets. It was the gambling episode. Because then, we had the love language or the love conversations for the value. Yeah, I mean, it was no secret that we record these sort of kind of overlapping when they get released. So I don't blame you for being confused. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep track. Like, what episode are we on? Like, what are we talking about? But yeah, we need to recap this. We put some bets down. Well, we didn't bet. We just used the betting lines and as a challenge to each other. I'm just going to recap them real quick. The opening line was Seahawks -4.5. Omen took Seahawks -4.5. So the winner of that one is Omen. Well done. Seahawks won 29-13, won by 16.
They hammered the Patriots.
Yeah, they covered the line and then some. Next betting line was over under total points 46.5. Omen took the over. I took the under. That bet was, I won that pretty much in the first half alone. That was
I don't know
slow.
I mean, I was expecting a higher score. I
Yeah.
don't know what you were thinking, but I did not think that the defenses were both going to be that dominant.
It was really impressive, especially in the first half. It was incredibly
Yeah.
dominant by the defenses. But
And
clear, I
boring.
won that one. I took the under. You said you didn't know what I was thinking or what you were thinking. I was just thinking the opposite of what you wanted. So I took the under
That's true.
by default, and I won that one. With it was a total of 42 points scored in the game. The next one was a 50-50. It was the coin toss. Omen took heads. I took tails, and the winner was Omen. It was heads. Next two were over under passing touchdowns for the quarterbacks. Drake May was over under
May
one and a
let me
half.
down.
Oh, Omen had the under, and I
Drake
got the
May,
over.
man.
I won that one. Drake May had 2 passing touchdowns. And for Sam Darnold, over under 1.5. Omen, you took the over, and I took the under. Once again, I was the winner. Sam Darnold only had 1 passing touchdown. And the final line we did, it was the national anthem. The over under on the national anthem length was 122 seconds. Yeah, I could tell early, and I knew this was going to happen as Charlie Puth got into it. I'm like, this ain't going to last long. So yeah, he was well under that, about 10 seconds under that. So you had taken the under, I took the over, so you won that one. So it's really exciting total here. We tied. Who came up with an even
I
number?
blame you.
Of
Yeah,
prop
who comes
bets?
up with the even bets?
3-3, we tie on the Super Bowl. Hey, but this is a good thing to illustrate. If we had taken these bets to the at a bookie, right, or a casino, the only person that would have won would have been the casino, because they would have taken the difference on all our bets. We would have collected 3 of them back and lost 3 of them, and we would have been out of pocket net. Whatever the juice is. What is that, like 3% or 4%? I don't know. But basically, the casino would have won if we had taken these bets for real.
But we should have had a 7th bet in there for like the number of aircraft in the military formation flying over. The flyover
awesome.
was pretty epic.
It was pretty
right.
sweet.
A couple B1s in there, F-35, F-16, I think I saw, and F-15 for sure. So that was really cool. All right. Well,
awesome.
In addition to the bets on the Super Bowl itself, clearly commercials. I thought there were some really good commercials in there. I want to save what I want to talk about for the commercials for off duty.
Perfect.
I thought they were a lot of fun. We'll save that for the off duty, except for one. There's one commercial that I thought was really, really interesting. It was early on in the Super Bowl, like maybe before it started or definitely in the first quarter. And that was investing in America's kids, the Trump accounts.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I looked at Megan and I said, I literally just released an article on this 4 hours before the Super Bowl on what the Trump accounts are, what they're kind of good for, what they might not be good for, and a good way to approach whether or not you want to invest in the Trump accounts. And then I texted you about it and you said, I did too. You just released an article on this too. We haven't read each other's articles. Oh, what do you got?
Right. Well, no, mine was earlier on. So I did it last year.
Okay.
I wrote one on it when it was
okay.
kind of the idea of it was in its infancy. I wanted to kind of tackle and get into. It was also part of me learning what they were all about. But yeah, I released one too. Yours is probably more up to date, considering the fact you just released it.
Ultimately, I've already had people asking me about them and whether or not they should invest. And really the take on this is start with the end in mind. What do you want to get out of investing in a Trump account versus what would you do in a 529 or what would you do in a Roth IRA if your kids are working? Like there's multiple different ways to save for your kids. I mean, you can even talk about like an UTMA or something like the Uniform Transfers of Minors Act. Like there's multiple ways to save for your kids. I think behind every single one of those accounts is a purpose. And each account has a different kind of purpose and I don't want to call it like a repercussion or consequence or anything like that, but like I think about saving in an UTMA, for example. When the kid turns the age of majority, the account's theirs. Like it's just theirs.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to leave your kid with that? I don't know. And I think Trump accounts certainly have a place in savings, but it's a glorified traditional IRA with a lot more strict rules around contribution limits and your ability to even kind of take distributions. You can't do Roth conversions. Like there's a lot of limits to the account. And sure, you could absolutely leave your child with a leg up on saving towards retirement. But if that's not your purpose, if saving more so towards like education and things like that, there are better accounts for those things.
Yeah, I will link both of your article and mine in the show notes. Make sure to go check them out. I don't want to add too much detail onto what you already kind of explained, but like I agree with you. It's a great thing to have another option. It's trying to be a lot of things. It's trying to expand the opportunity to use invested tax deferred funds for businesses and things like that. Is to kind of give younger folks more of a head start when it comes to their finances. But my goodness, regardless of how you feel about it, get the free money. It's $1,000 free, and you should definitely get that. Even if you don't want to do the Trump account for your child going forward, you don't want to contribute to it. My goodness, get $1,000 if they're born within the qualifying window. But yeah, we'll link to that, more to follow. Maybe a whole nother episode on Trump accounts in the future.
Yeah, I could see us like digging into Trump accounts for sure, because there's a lot of different parts, different contributions, things like that. So yeah, let's put that up on the calendar for something to do here in a little while before July 4th, I should probably say. All right.
Nice.
Well, enough about Trump accounts. Let's get into the history fact of the week. Rob, what do you got for us?
Yeah, this date in history, February 20th, 1962, a little bit more recent this time. I've been feasting on the 18th century, this date in history in the past. So this is a nice one, though. You'll especially like this one. But Marine John Glenn, Marine first and foremost, right? That's right. Becomes the first American to orbit Earth on February 20th, 1962. Lieutenant Colonel John H. Glenn completed 3 orbits in the Friendship 7 capsule. He was recovered by the destroyer USS Noah after splashdown, and by then he was already a decorated war veteran in World War II in Korea, and later became obviously one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts, as well as a politician, etc., and just an overall great American. So this date in history, February 20th, 1962, John Glenn becomes the first American to orbit Earth.
Did I ever tell you I met an astronaut once?
Well, around here, yeah, I don't know if I have. One of our neighbors used to be neighbors with an astronaut that went up plenty of times. Yeah, they're awesome. Around DC. They're around.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't around here. I was in Yuma getting ready to deploy to Kuwait, and the wing commander at the time was Major General Bolden. He ended up going up into space shortly after he was selected by NASA. He was actually... he was on staff at NASA as well, like the head of NASA or something like that as well. So yeah, that was a pretty cool opportunity. I mean, I was just a lowly little lance corporal, something like that, getting ready to go overseas. But yeah, he stopped by to wish us all well.
That's really cool. That's a great story.
To the desert. Yeah,
I would love to, if get an astronaut, sit him down at a bar and just listen to him tell stories. God, I would love to. I would love that. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move into the rest of our show here. We are going to be talking about DIY taxes gone wild today, as Rob, you and I have had plenty of opportunities to take a look at our clients' tax returns done both professionally and by themselves. But this is more so for those DIY tax people who think, I can do this. My taxes are simple enough. And most folks in the military, they probably think that their taxes are simple enough that they can just do them themselves. In quite a few cases, that is accurate. And we've created our top 7 reasons why you might want to seek out professional tax help. So before we get into that, let's get into this week's headline. This week's headline comes out of the Wall Street Journal by Jason Zweig. The stock market just got shaky. Where to find solid ground. I love these headlines. You should, Rob, you're going to love this too. Like, wait till I get into his very first paragraph. Like, if this doesn't like cull emotions out of you, boring is back. In recent days, software stocks and other risky assets have been mowed down by artificial intelligence, but stodgier stocks are springing up to replace them among the market's leaders. Mowed down. Come on. Is that not clickbait?
Well, I don't have the same reaction maybe you have to the artistic license that he's using here a little bit with this wording. As I looked at this article, it was like, I just kind of felt like this question of did this need to be written? He's just kind of pointing out some of the ways that stocks move and different types of stocks moved within indexes. He's talking about maybe, well, even similar sectors, I should say, but even maybe pockets of those sectors or pockets of the industries that are trending in different directions. They're just going to behave a little bit differently. They're going to move at different times up and down. That's really what he's pointing out. And this smelled like, when I was reading it, it's like, okay, I have to find something to write about. And so, okay, well, hey, AI stocks, some of the hottest AI stocks have dropped precipitously, in 2026 so far. And then a lot of the old tried and trues are sticking around and doing their thing, that i.e. the boring side of investing.
The week that this came out, there was some other headlines going around about Claude and its ability to vibe code so well. Like it's actually starting to thin the herd of AI producers, AI manufacturers, that in a way that people are starting to get a little bit nervous. Investors are starting to get a little bit nervous about, are they invested in the right AI company, like the one that's actually going to come out on top, or are they invested in something that's going to get left behind? And so I think, to be fair, this article was written at such a time where it appeared that the herd was starting to thin somewhat. And we saw an effect on the stock market in a way that a lot of people don't like. Everybody loves the ride up. Nobody likes a quick drop down.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me start this. Are you concerned about the different tech stocks that he mentions in this article dropping 20 to 40% quickly?
Am I personally?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Because the things that I invest in, let me put it this way. If I were to span my arms out left to right, like as far as I could go, across, like, my surface area of my arms is touching many different technologies, factors, sectors, regions globally. Like my surface area is spanned out in such a way that if some stock loses 20 to 40% at any given time, it's not a big deal, because I've got a support system that's going across several different sectors, several different regions. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, that's number one. And number two, I've got time. I mean, I know I look old, but I've got time before I actually need my investments.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that, yeah, you own these companies, but you also own a whole bunch more.
That's right.
So, yeah, the wrinkle in this, though, is some of these AI companies, I was just kind of looking up the article here again. Some of them, they do have such a large market cap. If you're looking at a cap weighted index fund where, it's a lot of the index fund is in these types of industries, then yeah, it will have an effect on the index as a whole, because it's such a big player in that. But he points out the fact that, yep, don't be too dismayed, because within that same index, maybe even within the same industries, there's other companies that are, like you said, more boring, that are those value companies that are churning out dividends, every quarter. Like he said, the boring ones that are help buoying the index and keeping things healthy.
No, I completely agree with you. He actually goes on to say these low volatility funds don't have a third of their assets in a handful of huge tech companies the way S&P 500 index funds do. Instead, they favor such formerly boring fare as utility, financial, and consumer staple stocks. And really what he's saying here is that, well, he's really only reiterating what you and I are, in that it's good to be diversified. You want to be diversified into a number of things that might have more risk. They might get you more reward, though. There is risk and reward are intrinsically tied together. So if you're going to be boring, you're also going to probably expect some boring rewards as well. So being diversified makes your roller coaster ride a little less wild, right?
Well, the ride to wealth is boring. We know this. That's kind of the staple of wealth building. He talks about low volatility funds in this as well. And I understand that, and what that means is this is not the wiggle, like the up and down, the daily, the short-term up and down isn't going to be quite as difficult to absorb, but the long-term growth prospect is still there. Volatility matters, especially if you're taking maybe regular distributions, if you're in retirement, or you have a short-term income goal in retirement, that first bucket, that 3-year bucket where you're making sure to take income from. if you're looking for lower volatility, sometimes I think it's interesting that you'll see equities with lower volatility advertised as lower volatility or buffered, right? They have a cap on the high and the low end, and it's tended to act as this reduced volatility type of investment. Well, there's already investments that naturally act like that, you know? So just keep it in mind. Make the main thing the main thing. If you have 3-year window of income that you need in retirement, then yeah, you don't want a lot of risk and volatility. So yeah, some of these might not be for you individual stocks, especially. But boring is the key word. But you don't need to look for something that's masquerading as something else. You can just go for the low volatility. You can go for the income. The bonds, et cetera. They've always is tried and true. I know I'm getting a little off, far afield from the original point. The only thing I'll say is I did not notice this happening because I don't follow these individual stocks. What I did notice was interesting is that the S&P and the Dow were not as correlated as they normally are. As I kind of flipped through, those are kind of my two big ones to kind of monitor the market. As I looked at them, one was up like 0.5%. The other one there was one day it was like, I think the Dow was up over 2% on the day, but the S&P was not. And then there was another day it was kind of flipped. Like they were still moving in the same direction, but it wasn't to the same degree. Usually they're a lot closer related to the amount of growth that they're achieving from day to day. So I think that kind of points out the dichotomy that he's pointing out here, kind of speaks to that.
You were starting to get into my last point here, is that sometimes boring doesn't necessarily mean that you are willing to take less risk with your investment. Sometimes boring is just straight up turning off the news and being bored.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen.
So you're not actually watching what is happening, because if you are, and you click on an article like this, like things getting mowed down and mowed over and, precipitous drops in the market, and you're thinking, oh, I have to sell all my things right now. Like I want out of AI. Well, you would have missed the growth you just mentioned.
Yep.
One day later.
Yep.
You would have missed it.
Yep. I pulled up the article. Yeah, go ahead. Finish your point. I have one more thing. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, turn off the news. Just turn off the news. Know that what you're doing is steady state. You don't need the money for 10, 15, 20 years. Like, it doesn't matter. Just put it in there and let it go. Be boring.
To put an exclamation on your point, when I pulled up this article of today, you dropped this in a few days ago, but just pulling it up today, I don't know how to efficiently describe this, but within the article, he's embedded the different holdings that he's referring to. So there was 3 of them specifically: Robinhood, Palantir, and App11, which is new to me. But those were the 3 of the stocks, the hot stocks that he was referring to, and that they were down a lot in 2026. So in the paragraph, it says that those 3 were down in 2026. They're down 36, 27, and 44% respectively. However, within the paragraph, there's actual links like of what's happening with those stocks today. And one's up 6%, another one's up 6%, another one's up 14.5% on the day.
Dude.
Yeah, so it's like
crazy.
The point he's making, when you're reading the paragraph, it's like, oh, these are all down. It's terrible. And one of them's up 14% on the day. It couldn't be more.
While you're reading.
While you're reading it. Yeah. After the article was written and a day later, it's just completely subverting the point of like, yeah, this happens. Hot growth happens after, a lot of times you get that huge spike in growth after those drops.
So as we end this, if you have a problem watching the news, watching the markets, I want you to do me a favor here. I want you to write yourself what we call the investment policy statement that makes a promise to yourself that says, I will not watch the news. And then have your purpose in there as to why you're investing in the first place and when you're going to need the money. And then put that on your mirror. Post it to your mirror and look at that every day and say, I'm not going to watch the news because my investments are supposed to be doing these things for me. And then walk away and don't turn on the news. You got anything else?
No, that's perfect.
Good. All right. Well, let's move into the rest of our show. Rob, you and I, as financial planners, have seen our share of DIY taxes. So today we're going to go over the 7 most common mistakes that we see year over year. And here's the problem that I see with DIY tax people. and I trust me, I'm pointing the finger at me right now, is that they never know when to call in a pro. They always think that they can just YouTube this thing or research it. What do you think the problem with that is?
Naturally, folks' financial situations grow more complicated as they get older. So I'm a DIYer, and this will probably be the last year I've done a DIY, because now, self-employment income, I understand it well. I'm a financial professional, and even to me, I'm like, maybe next year, let me just get another set of eyes on this, just to make sure that it's done correctly. It's worth the small amount of money it costs to pay a professional to do your taxes. It relieves your burden on you of feeling anxious about auditing. You could still get audited, but now you're going to have somebody in your corner that helped you through this process. But just naturally over time, folks, their situation gets more complicated. The types of income they have are different. Rental properties, et cetera. All the reasons we're about to get into, when you start layering these levels of complexity on top, it really would behoove you to understand how they all intertwine and interact, and to help avoid mistakes in your taxes.
Yeah. I mean, I hired my own pro this year for the first time because we opened 2 businesses this year. Like I do understand this, but like this is getting beyond what I want to deal with, because as a financial professional in the world that we deal with, there's a lot to keep up with. If you want to consider yourself a professional and you're tying together, in our world, we're trying to tie together cash flow, investments, risk with insurance, estate planning, tax planning, all the plannings, right? We want to tie all this together, and we have to stay on top of these individual things. We live in this world, and I still feel like I can easily fall behind on the rapid fire tax law changes that continuously come out, right? The OTRIP-BA, that created a complete revamp of the tax code. And so like I can't keep up with all of those things. And I'm going to admit that here to you right now. But your job in the military, or your job as a school teacher, or your job as a, whatever, like how much exposure do you have to these tax laws and how they all work together? So you're putting your faith and confidence in H&R Block, or what are the other tax softwares?
TurboTax for our
TurboTax, yeah.
MilTax for the free for active duty. MilTax, great resource. Yeah, so if you have a simple situation, MilTax is probably a great resource. It'll hold your hand and get you through it. But yeah, to your point, like we're financial professionals, but there's a whole nother field of tax professionals that their job to follow all those details and all the changes from year to year.
All right. So having said all of that, Rob, let's start going through these 7 points on when you might want to start looking for a tax professional in your life. All right, here we go. Point number 1, you accidentally claim tax deductible IRA contributions when you actually deferred to your 401k. I've seen this a couple of times now where somebody sees on their tax form contributions to a tax deferred IRA. And I think they just get it confused in their mind that they contributed to their TSP in a tax deferred account there. And they equate the two together to say, I have an IRA. I contributed tax deferred money to my IRA. They click the button and they put whatever amount that they contributed actually to their TSP. Have you seen that?
I have. But more than that, I've seen folks that are confused by it, that they're actually scared of investing to begin with because they don't know what these things are. I'm going to set aside for a moment my argument that all tax deferred accounts should be IRAs, whether they're workplace plans, they should all just be an IRA. Everyone should just have IRA and that should be it. Like, I don't understand why we need all these different types. Sure, put different rules on different ways, like employers to contribute if you want, but like, can we just make it all IRA? Anyway, that'll never happen because a lot of people will be out of work. But if a politician's out there is listening, you got my vote if you want to put this forth. But yeah, most people are just confused about what these are to begin with. According to CNBC, as of 2019, as many as 2/3 of employees couldn't explain what a 401k was. And I mean, that's not that long ago. 401ks have been in place for a long time, and so have IRAs. This kind of speaks to your point that if you're confused about this and where your money's going and the type of retirement accounts, then this should be the first jumping off point in seeking a professional.
Yeah. So just for your knowledge, when you contribute it to your 401k at work, your TSP, that money is actually reduced from your W-2. So when you get box 1 of your W-2, that amount is actually going to be different than box 3. And there's a reason why. If you look down at box 12, that amount is actually sitting right there. The difference is sitting right there with a code next to it. So by then saying that you have contributed to a tax-deferred IRA, you're actually technically double dipping. Yeah, that's certainly something that you want to steer away from. If the big cue is if you don't have an IRA in your name at one of the big firms like Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, whatever, like if you don't personally have an IRA, then you did not contribute to an IRA.
You just have to know what where your money's going. The nice thing is about a lot of the DIY tax software is now they do optical scanning of the W-2s. So they just kind of catch this already. But yeah, like you said, the confusion happens later on when it said, even TurboTax is going to ask you, did you contribute to an IRA? And to somebody that's confused, apparently 2/3 of employees, they might be like, yeah, I contributed to my 401k. How much? Yes. And then now we're putting in, like you said, double dipping that tax deduction that they're getting for their contributions to the 401k.
And the problem with like TurboTax is how do you provide the evidence to that? It's not like it's going to get an optical scan of your checking account. Like there's no way to provide evidence of that.
Yep. Good reason to reach out to a pro.
That's right. All right. Let's get into point number 2. You took a deduction for contributions to a traditional IRA and you weren't allowed to. So now we're starting to get a little bit more complex. And this might actually go outside of the military, although I've seen plenty of military couples, like married couples or so, where they've got a military a military paycheck, an outside civilian paycheck, or maybe even dual mill. Like it's possible for dual mill to fall into this, where you start to hit the income limits of what you're actually allowed to take as far as a contribution to a traditional IRA.
Yeah, income limits. You're talking about income limits. This speaks to my point earlier. The older people get income limits increased. That's part of the complexity. It makes it necessary for you to reach out to a pro. So yeah, income limits, and those are related to marital status. The other big one a lot of people don't realize is employer plan availability. So I don't know of a good warning of how that might catch somebody up, but just be aware of it. Like, to me, this is like the reverse. Like it actually might encourage you to do it because people are aware of the income limits, but they're different if you have a workplace plan available to you. So the TSP, real quick point, even if you're not contributing to the TSP, if it's available to you, then you fall under the more restrictive income limits of someone who has an employer plan available to you.
Right. So if you don't have an available employer plan to you, like this is important for married folks to listen to. This is the matrix. We really could start to get into the matrix with this one, but let's just say you're a single person and you don't have an employer plan available to you at all. There is no phase out. You can continue to take tax-deferred IRA contributions because you don't have an employer plan available to you. But the moment you introduce an employer plan available, not just you contributing, but available, that's
right.
Key. Now all of a sudden you've got impact. You're impacted by the limits. And if you're married and your spouse has one and you don't, like there's other limits. And if you both have one, there's more limits. So this is really kind of key here to know what your phase out limits are.
Another tripwire on this is earned income, right? So, because if you for some reason it's a year that you're using taxable funds to fund your lifestyle for a year, if you're taking a sabbatical, if you don't have earned income for the year to cover that amount of the contribution to the traditional IRA, then yeah, you can't do it. I don't know why you would to the traditional side. Probably go for a Roth if you had no income to report. But earned income is mandatory for these. Pension doesn't count. Can't use pension as earned income in order to justify traditional IRA contributions. So there's a lot of wrinkles. Again, these all apply to usually later in life, people in sabbatical, early retirement, pension drawing, etc. Complexity breeds the need to seek out a professional. This episode is brought to you by the Military Financial Advisors Association.
MFAA is a global network of independent, fee-only fiduciary financial advisors who specialize in serving military families.
And we're not just highlighting it. Omen and I are members ourselves, so we know firsthand what they stand for.
That's right. Every member of MFAA is either active duty, a veteran, or a military spouse, so they truly understand the unique financial challenges that come with military life.
Plus, every advisor must hold or be actively pursuing the CFP designation, which is the gold standard in financial planning.
So let's put that together. When you choose an advisor with MFAA, you are getting a professional who won't sell you a product, who knows the military life, and will plan using your hard-earned military benefits.
Whether you're navigating a step out of the military after 4 years, a military retirement, or a transition into a work-optional lifestyle, MFAA advisors speak your language.
Visit militaryfinancialadvisors.org to find an advisor who fits your mission.
MFAA, real advice, real experience.
This advertisement is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Information and opinions provided within the Fiscal Foxhole do not necessarily reflect official positions or opinions of the Military Financial Advisors Association or its members. Consult a qualified financial professional before making any financial decisions.
So in this last point, we talked about the taking a deduction for contributions to traditional IRA. This next point, point number 3, is that you may have contributed to a Roth IRA and you weren't allowed to. Roth IRAs also have income limits around a modified adjusted gross income. And when we say MAGI, do you say Maggie or Magi? How do you say it?
Well, I was like Magi.
Magi.
I don't know why.
Wow, you're fancy.
I guess. I don't know. That's how I don't know. That's how I always saw it. Yeah. Modified adjusted gross income.
And here's the thing with taxes, right? Is there's a modified adjusted gross income, but it's not this is the modified adjusted gross income that applies to Roth. There's also modified adjusted gross incomes that apply to, other credits and deductions that you can take. There's 6 or 7 different modified adjusted gross income calculations. And so you have to know which one's which when you apply it to the Roth. But for this one specifically, probably the 2 most common things that you would find in this modified adjusted gross income is going to be, number 1, your AGI. So that is the AGI of MAGI is what is that, line 11, I think, on your 1040 is your AGI plus any traditional IRA contributions. So they add that back in. There's a few more. There's 4 or so more other calculations, but they're not very common for most people. But it creates this income limit where if you exceed that, you start to get into a phase out. And then if you exceed that phase out, you get into a point at which you are not allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA at all.
Other common items added back into the AGI is tax-exempt interest from muni bonds. Again, another tactic that high-income earners use in a taxable account. They use muni bonds to offset, their high tax rates, and foreign earned income. Again, I just keep saying the same thing over and over again. These are complicating factors. Usually people, later years in life that they experience that, factors in that they have to factor for.
Yeah. Just for an example, I think this one's a little bit easier because Roth is a little bit more straightforward. It doesn't matter if you have a workplace plan, for example. If you're filing jointly, your phase out range for 2026 is $242,000 to $252,000. So if you have a modified adjusted gross income that is either within that range or outside that range, above that range, then you are either phasing out on some kind of sliding scale of $10,000 of a $10,000 sliding scale of your limit, or you're completely out whatsoever. And if you do contribute to a Roth IRA and you're not allowed to, now you have to turn around and not only get that money back out of your Roth IRA, but you also have to get its growth out of the IRA, or else you'll be penalized year after year until it's all out.
Again, as your income grows, these are things to watch out for as you get older. So if you're close to that, then maybe stay away from the Roth. You really want to get money into your Roth. Use your employer plan if you got it, or do a conversion. If you got traditional IRAs, do a conversion, slide money over to the Roth side, or if you can do a backdoor Roth IRA contribution. If you don't have a traditional IRA, that's very easy to do. If you do, you can do it. It's a little messy, but still doable. Last thing, you have to have earned income. That one more thing, you have to have earned income to contribute to a Roth IRA. So another snag. All these things pile on top of each other as warning signs that you might be making a mistake when you're playing around with this.
That's what I tell my clients. If they think that they're going to be close, if we're projecting out their income for the year and we think that they're going to be close, we just go ahead and do the backdoor Roth. It keeps things safe. It keeps it simple, and we do a quick conversion and it's done and dusted. But that is a great entry into our next point of the fact that you might have done a Roth conversion, but you never reported it on Form 8606. Now, if you're asking yourself, what's a Form 8606? It's time. Like, go get a tax professional. It's time. Okay. So Form 8606 tracks your basis into an after-tax account. So non-deductible, you cannot deduct this. You're outside the income limit. So you put after-tax money into a non-deductible IRA. You do a Roth conversion on that. You're only doing a Roth conversion on the money that you've earned. And if you've done a Roth conversion within a day or three of contributing after-tax dollars, then you're not going to be taxed on anything but a couple pennies probably. But you, for all intents and purposes, your custodian is going to give you a 1099-R with the entire amount that you just converted. So if you did a full conversion for this year and you're under 50 years old, it's $7,500. They're going to give you a 1099-R for $7,500. It is quite possible that you could be taxed again on that if you don't report this on a Form 8606.
I'm laughing over here because if I'm a listener and I don't know anything about this, what you just said, I'm turning this off. I'm not even listening beyond what you just.
You crashed your car.
Look, you did a great job.
Oh,
this is not on you. You did a really good job. There's no easy way to explain the nonsense that's wrapped up in this. But if I can just use the bluest blue crayon and just color in the lines here.
Perfect. I'm hungry anyway.
If you do after-tax contributions, you don't want to get taxed on it twice. That's it. So 8606 prevents that from happening if filed and filled out properly. You need to have an 8606 if you're doing these types of things. So yeah, a tax pro can help you.
I want to take this moment, number one, to apologize. I'm sorry for getting into all of that. But number two is in April or May, if you do a Roth conversion, you're going to receive a Form 5498 from your custodian. It's not something that you have to file with the IRS. That's not how this works. But that Form 5498 is pretty critical to your record keeping. So if you get something from your custodian in that form, like that is something to scan and hold on to or file away or whatever you do with your tax documents, just file it away.
Yep.
But it tracks your basis. Like that is your historical record of your basis.
Yeah. And don't allow your custodian to be the sole source for your basis in these accounts. This is on you. 8606 is the kind of the tracking form. That is the standard for tracking the basis. So a lot of custodians will do it for you and they'll help you out and they're pretty good, but don't rely on it. It's on you.
All right. So our listeners probably just hit the, skips 10 seconds ahead until they got to this next point number 5, because they're done hearing about basis.
Yeah. Well,
all
sorry.
Right, so let's get into
you're going to hear more about it.
Well, you just dropped it. Point number 5, you aren't tracking your basis. Like this is, oh my.
Sorry, y'all. This is so sexy. It's so good.
This is.
All right. Go ahead. Go for it.
Because basis does not just apply to Roth conversions. Go for it, Rob.
Basis is your friend. Let me just start by saying that basis is your friend. Basis is, in layman's terms, it's the amount of money you've already put in, whether it be your house, anything. Like it's the amount of money you've already paid for something. So what happens is when you go to liquidate an asset, whether it be a stock or your home or whatever, there's a certain amount of growth that happens on these things, and the government's going to tax you on the growth. What you don't want to happen is them to not know, or let me say this a better way, for you to not know exactly how much that growth is. Because if you don't know how much money you put in, you don't have a record of how much money you put into these assets, then guess what? Like the government's just going to assume maybe all of its growth. So not only did you pay income tax, let's say on, if you bought a stock for $10 and you already paid income tax on that $10 and you bought a stock and now it grew to 15. Well, the government's going to take, they're going to tax you on the long-term or short-term capital gains on the $5, but you don't have a record of it. They might tax you on all 15. So, 15. And you've already paid income tax on the $10. So it avoids the double taxation that we are as Americans protected against, but it's on you. You have to track your basis no matter what. I actually have a story. One of my clients, they had they had lost years of basis that wasn't tracked properly in 8606, but they have records to back it up. So this year we're doing an adjustment and we're getting a whole bunch more basis back into their IRAs, and it's going to protect them from that double taxation. But without it, I don't know how much they're going to would suffer in taxes over the long term had we not clawed back that basis and get it established in the 8606.
The same thing. I've got a client who's got a taxable account that the basis it didn't have to be tracked by the custodian before 2011. Well, this account goes back to 1982. And this client had records all the way back to 1982. Unbelievable. But we went back and we rebuilt the basis from 1982 and found them $29,000, I think, in basis.
Yeah.
And so, that's $29,000 less in their taxes. Yep. So it's a win, but man, it's a pain when you have to go back and do that because you haven't been keeping up with it.
Yeah. Track your basis.
Rob, I have to give myself a gold star because, I told you I hired a tax pro for us this year, and I keep an Excel sheet because some people might be wondering, how do you do this? Well, it's actually not as nerdy as you think. You can just simply keep an Excel sheet with your basis that you've built up in your home, in Roth conversions, in after-tax basis. It can all go on an Excel sheet. I've been tracking this on an Excel sheet and just handed the whole thing to my tax pro. I'm waiting for the pat on the back. She hasn't reached out to me and said, thank you so much for this, but I'm waiting for it.
That's very impressive. That's good. Basis isn't that complicated. Sorry. I don't mean good job. Yeah, it's pretty easy. You don't have to do, conceptually. I don't mean that. That's awesome. Conceptually speaking, though, it really is just whatever you put in. That's it. When you come to a taxable account or you're doing after-tax contributions to a traditional IRA, it's really just the dollar amount. Now, if you do reinvest dividends or interest that you receive in a taxable account, that gets added on to the basis too. So you could do this just by downloading, transaction sheets from, every month. They're provided, the statements are provided to you. That can be enough of a reference for what it is. But keep close track, or if your custodian does it for you, keep an eye on it. Make sure it's accurate.
And don't just go adding in basis because you think you can.
Yeah,
you have to have an actual record for that.
Do not break the law, no.
All right. So this next point here, this is actually for our younger listeners. It can apply definitely to our older listeners, but our younger listeners, I've definitely come across several young moguls who want to own rental properties. So our next point, you have a rental, but you don't depreciate. This is a problem.
If you have a rental, get a pro. I think that's almost like an automatic. I'm hiring a professional to do my taxes. If you have a rental property, you need a professional.
If you don't depreciate, the IRS already assumes that you do. And so what happens, Rob, when you get to the end of your rental property, you say, I'm sick and tired of this. It's been 10 years. I'm going to go ahead and sell this rental property, and you haven't depreciated over the last 10 years.
The IRS treats that as it has been depreciated, whether you did it or not. And depreciation is a benefit to you. Let me start with that. Yeah, as you depreciate the property, you actually get tax break for that amount every single year. And it's a tax break against your income, right? So when it comes time to sell, now they're going to recapture that depreciation when you sell. So let's say after the 10 years, you should have depreciated by $60,000 total. Well, you're going to owe taxes, income tax on that $60,000 when you sell it. Whether you took that depreciation or not, you're going to owe income taxes. In Omen, I have a client who has a rental property, and they've been doing this well. They've actually been doing it correct. They are DIYers. They were DIYers with their taxes, and they were depreciating accurately, which is great. But it's funny, they still didn't understand the recapture that was looming out in front of them. And that was one of their main questions. Yep. Wait a minute. So can you explain it? So I wrote it out. I have a way I can draw it out on paper, and they're good now, and they feel better about it. This is just really confusing. Even if you're doing the depreciation incorrectly, when it goes to sell the property, it could be confusing.
If you have a rental property right now and you have not been depreciating, the best thing that you can do at the moment, and here we are talking in February, so finding a tax professional that's willing to do your taxes right now might be a little bit difficult as things kind of ramp up. But immediately after tax season, get with a tax professional. You can amend your previous tax returns up to 3 years. So 3 years from the time of filing. So let's be clear on that. You might only be able to do 2 tax returns, but you can do something, and something is better than nothing. But if you have not been depreciating, you own a rental property, get with a tax pro.
Yeah, it's a lot of money you're leaving on the table.
All right. So our last point here, we really, it's when to find a tax professional. So as we've gone through each and every one of these points, if you ever thought, oh, dang it, I've already made that mistake, it's time for you to get a professional. And here's the thing. I know nobody wants to pay for a tax professional because, I mean, it's like changing your oil. Like, I don't want to pay somebody to change my oil because I know how to change my oil. But if it starts to get beyond that kind of complexity, there's not only the expertise, like somebody can actually dig into my engine and they can code it out and they can figure out exactly what's going on with it. It's also the time. It would take me a lot of time to YouTube and maybe diagnose what's going on with my engine, like do a little bit of troubleshooting. I've been through several iterations of I bought a part, I replaced the part, it took me a couple hours, and that wasn't the fix. Not fun. With your taxes, with anything kind of financial, and I'm not trying to sell you here, it's really knowing when it's time to go get help. Paying somebody a couple $100s to do your taxes to save you several hours, number one, and number two, knowing that it's done right, absolutely invaluable. So don't just think of this as a dollar value of like, oh man, it's going to cost me a couple $100s to have a tax pro do this for me. Yes, it's going to cost you a couple $100, but what it's actually giving you in value is relief, peace, less anxiety, and you know it's done right. And even if they mess it up, because I've seen plenty of tax returns come back from CPAs that are messed up too, but guess who gets to fix it and pay for the fixes?
I've already made my case plenty of times already that the level of complexity that you experience as you get older and more income and more complicated financial situations warrants the idea of hiring a professional. You're talking about the convenience and the relief and the cover side of things. The nice thing too is even if you're good about doing all the details in a DIY tax yourself, you use TurboTax H&R Block, and you know you're putting all the details correctly, if you don't properly understand how the taxes are applied to you, then there's still a lot of insecurity about whether or not you did it correctly. You might look at that last number, and if you know how taxes are applied and long-term capital gains and depreciation recapture and tracking basis and et cetera, you'll see the result of what you're putting in and you'll be like, yep, that looks right. That's exactly what I expect it to be. If you don't understand all of these things, you could do everything accurately and you're still going to suffer that concern that, you know, if you get audited or should you get audited, what to expect or how that's going to impact you. Hiring a professional relieves that. Like you said, it just kind of takes that. It's a really nice convenience where you're like, well, I have a professional looking at it. They know what they're doing. And if they make a mistake, I'm covered or audited, then they'll help me out or there's some cost coverage or whatever. The more complicated your tax return is, the higher degree of audit that you face. The trivia question actually is related to this, the types of things that increase audit chances. So as you get more complicated, you should get a pro, not only for the peace of mind, but also because there is a higher chance of facing an audit.
I think before we close out this segment, one of the areas that I want to review really quickly is just because you need to go out and find a professional does not necessarily mean that you need to find a CPA. Yeah. Right? The CPA is kind of your highest level of tax professional. I mean, they take a really, really hard exam to do what they do. But there's other tax professionals that can take care of you that are qualified to represent you in front of the IRS. An enrolled agent, an EA, if you see that behind somebody's name, they also can file your taxes on your behalf and represent you in front of the IRS in case you get audited. Like you don't have to show up in front of the IRS. They can do it for you. So EA and CPA both qualified to be able to represent you in front of the IRS and can easily file your taxes. Rob, what about the on-base help? You mentioned it earlier with Miltax.
Well, Miltax is online
assistant. Yeah,
you're
absolutely
doing it yourself. The on-base help, are you referring to the soldiers and service members that are kind of called upon to serve as tax professionals? Yeah, I don't know the legal basis of how they're covered or who is covering them or what the information. I've never used it, and I don't know what software. They might be using a software, so they might be the intermediary between you and the software, but it's still based on the information you give them. But I'm going to stop it short at saying you shouldn't trust them or shouldn't use them, because with simplified taxes, it should be a cakewalk. But just understand that the difference maybe between an EA and a CPA and that type of level of support.
My experiences with the on base is that they are volunteers, soldiers, Marines, sailors, whatever. So they are volunteers, but they're usually volunteer nerds. So somebody will ask them if they want to help file other people's taxes during the season. And these are people that will push up their glasses. I'm not wearing my glasses. Oh my gosh. Anyway, these will be people that will push up their glasses, say, yep, I'm going to volunteer for this. And they'll go hop in a tent somewhere and they'll start filing people's taxes. The good news is that sitting behind them is an EA or a CPA. That's number one. So there is a backstop there, usually.
Okay, good.
There's also VITA training. So they'll go through actual tax training before they start even inputting people's numbers into a tax return. So there's several layers there. And then lastly, I would say if you showed up with a stack of paperwork because you have 5 rentals in 4 different states, they'll probably just look at you and say, go find a professional.
Yeah.
Right. So at least they're not going to attempt to do something that is outside of their capability. Nothing to add. Okay. So let's move on. One last thing. What about Walmart? And I don't mention Walmart like specifically, but what do you find when you walk into a Walmart? Have you been into a Walmart lately, Rob? I don't know with your magi if you've ever walked into a Walmart.
I used the Walmart Plus. We talked about this with Lacey. I love it. It's really great when I get that, the delivery. So Walmart comes to me. I don't go to Walmart. So if there's tax preparation happening at Walmart for A, I'm not aware of it, and B, it hasn't been brought to my house.
H&R Block, they do sit inside most Walmarts.
Okay.
It's a business, right? But you can't guarantee when you walk into a Walmart that person is qualified necessarily. And I don't know what H&R Block does as a business to filter their representatives sitting at the store, in terms of training, whether or not they are an EA or a CPA. I honestly do not know. So that one, I would just say kind of take it with a grain of salt and do your own due diligence on whether or not that person is qualified. But if they are asking you questions that like, where do I put this number on this form? That's probably a good sign to walk away.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Do you know anything about the firms that offer the refund? Like you actually get an upfront refund, like they offer you like the $200 or $150. I hear about it. I've never used those institutions, so I don't know, but those got to come with some like crazy terms, right?
I want to try to be fair here. I feel like you just hit a trigger.
Okay.
And the reason why I think it's a little bit triggering is because there's some kind of assumption that you're going to get a refund in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Like I almost hear dishonesty in this, like, or the potential to be dishonest. Like we're going to go find you a refund no matter what. But the other thing is like, people look forward to their refunds so much. Like you can't wait the 3 weeks it might take for you to get a federal refund when it's submitted electronically. You can't wait 3 weeks. You want to get your refund now at the cost of whatever interest rate that place is going to give you for.
Yeah, that's the part. Yeah, the interest rate, that's what I'm worried about. Because
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not, you make a good point. Like if anybody's promising you a certain amount of return or whatever, I don't hear that. I hear like, hey, we're going to maximize your return. God forbid. I hope they're not doing anything illicit to try to get more than you're owed back. But I always heard those as like, if you're getting a return that they'll front you some amount of money. And to me, I'm like, like I said, I've never looked into it because I can't speak with any authority on it, but I imagine there has to come with some interest rate. And on top of that, like it's like guaranteed that they're going to get paid back because you're getting the refund. So I don't know if they get a part of that. I don't know how that works. So I was just kind of curious if you've dealt with it. If I hear that, it just sounds very hairy, like right up front. Like it doesn't sound like something you should be participating in.
It feels very payday loanish to me.
That's it.
That's what it feels like.
Perfect. That you nailed it. That's exactly how it feels. Yes.
So If you are getting back a large refund, I will continue to hit the drum on this one. Adjust your withholdings. Don't keep giving the government a 0% interest loan throughout the year. Get back part of your paycheck every single month so that you can have more margin in your life. So we're going way off.
Yeah, we've sufficiently scared everyone, I think.
We were supposed to be stopping it into trivia by now, Rob.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, let's get to it.
All right.
I think we've scared
Let's
everyone.
go to trivia.
Yeah, I think we've scared everyone.
Okay.
Let's get to it.
Well, this is our trivia challenge between the two of us for the prize of pride and a very cheap trophy sitting over my left shoulder right now. I mean, it's cheap, but it's invaluable to me. I love my trophy. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. I love it. All right. So this year, again, we are keeping our overall scores secret. I would say that if you've been listening for this year, for the episodes this year, you probably know that I'm at least ahead. I'll give that to you right now that I'm ahead, but we'll have our challenge to our listeners at the very end of the year as to how many I got right and how many Rob got wrong throughout the course of the year. This week's trivia is over to Rob. You already heard him say he's got a challenging question for me. So Rob, what do you got?
Yeah, as mentioned and as promised, the question for you this week, Omen, has to do with the common triggers for audits from the IRS. We talked about complicating factors and how they might cause audits to happen and, what some of those triggers are. First of all, one of the most common ones is if you report income that doesn't match the amounts that's reported to the IRS. That's one of the most common triggers for audits. So just make sure you're reporting all your income correctly, especially the income that's already being reported to the IRS on your behalf. But beyond that and beyond mistakes and omissions, income level is also a contributing factor to the likelihood of an audit, i.e. the higher the income, higher degree of chance that you might suffer an audit. So
bigger fish.
Your question, what's that?
Bigger fish.
Bigger fish. Yeah, a lot more to shake from that tree. So your question, Omen, this week is, for those with AGI greater than $10 million a year, what is the average audit rate? Is it A, 0.4%, B, 2.9%, C, 7.7%, or D, 10.1%?
Okay, well, A's gone. I mean, there's no way. And wait, what year is this? Like, what years are these stats from?
Good question. The follow-up information that I gathered after this was from 2024. So we can just assume maybe it's from that year.
Okay, because I'm thinking about like the IRS manning at this point.
Gotcha.
Like, I think that their rates are going to be a lot lower this year. And don't use that as an excuse to do your taxes incorrectly, by the way. And you think that your chances of getting audited are that low. All right, so let's see here. I'm just going to go for big gaps here. So B was 2%.
2.9.
C was how much?
B was 2.9. Okay, so it was closer to 3. Let's round it. B is 3%.
Okay, 3, go.
C is 8%, and D is 10%.
8 and 10. Okay. 3, 8, or 10. 3, 8, or 10. You ever watch National Treasure?
Yeah, that's
so
good.
It says, you know how much taxes are on $5 million?
I remember that point. Yeah.
It's a great line. Maybe I got that wrong. But anyway, all right. I am going to shoot the middle here. I'm going to go with 8%.
8% is answer C. You are incorrect. The correct answer is 2.9% of those earning over $10 million in adjusted gross income trigger an audit based on the income levels alone. Some other interesting facts from this is 78% of audits are correspondence audits, which they mailed me because we had an error in the way we were splitting the state between my wife and I before Jenna could opt into like my state residency or before we had the same state residency. The way that we handled the deductions between those wasn't fair in the eyes of Virginia. So we had to adjust that. But that was a simple mailing, and I called them and we got it worked out. And, but field audits, the ones where they show up in person, which you see in TVs and movies, those are less common, but only if they result in large adjustments or are expected to. But the audits in 2024 resulted in $29 billion in recommended additional taxes. Very lucrative for the IRS. It also ended in 2,481 criminal investigations and 1,198 people going to prison. So yeah, these are
they got Al Capone, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. As I understand it. Yeah. It's something, it's almost like one of those things they could almost get anybody with, right?
Well, I mean, to that end, like if they make that much money off of it, I would think that the percentage of audit would actually be higher because they earn so much more income when they do the audits. I can only imagine that's pretty manpower intensive. So, all right, Rob. Well, you stumped me on this one. I appreciate the question. That's a really good one there. I think that's a good way to wrap up today's show. So, with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode of the Fiscal Foxhole. We appreciate that you're here with us, and we hope that you've taken something away that you can use in your life, like going out and finding a tax pro. We always appreciate you hanging out with us in the financial trenches, but we'd actually you know what? Hang on a second. I need to dig into a point real quick, because if you love this show, we want to stick around and we want to put this podcast to the top of everybody's list of potential listens. So if you love this show, please, you don't even have to write a review on it. You can just rate the show at the moment, but go create yourself an Apple account, a podcast account, and give us a rating. We'd appreciate it. We love it. All right, now let's close it out. So Rob, what are our key takeaways?
Practical takeaways from today are, number one, the market just reminded everyone that, quote, exciting cuts both ways. When the shiny stuff gets mowed down, boring, diversified, low volatility investing quietly does what it always has done, survives the chaos and keeps marching. Takeaway number two, DIY taxes feel less expensive until a missed rule, form, or income limits turn, quote, saving money into penalties, amended returns, or lost tax benefits. Doing it yourself only works if you actually know the rules you're playing by. And our third practical takeaway from today is the IRS keeps score whether you do or not. Roth eligibility, IRA basis, and rental depreciation all get tracked eventually. So hoping the software catches it doesn't avoid tax consequences, it just delays and often worsens them.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions you'd like answered on the show, please send us a note to fiscalfoxhole@gmail.com. If you heard something today that you'd like to discuss further, or you just want to dig deeper into your own financial game plan, both Rob and Omen are accepting new clients and always happy to chat. You'll find the links to their websites or to book appointments in the show notes. Rob Moore and Omen Quelvog are both registered investment advisor representatives. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While they are both advisors, they are not your advisors. Therefore, nothing you hear on Fiscal Foxhole should be taken as specific investment, legal, or tax advice. For guidance tailored to your situation, please consult a qualified professional who understands your individual circumstances.
Rob, as we get going on our off duty, I thought we would revisit Super Bowl commercials, because I do love the commercials. I mean, there were some good ones this year. Here are some of the ones that I noted from, this is kind of like in order that I saw them. So there's the Lay's potato chips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you see this one? So
I did.
The guy, it was like the father and the daughter on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you cry?
No, no, the cynic in me prevented me from maybe appreciating it as much as you did, because I always love.
Are you saying I cried?
I'm guarantee you did. I know you did. No, I always loved like the sweet, sentimental, life's journey, whatever. And, this huge thing, like moment between the father and daughter, and it's like licorice, or something silly. Like there's this huge moment between life's moment that they're putting out, and there's some weird like, okay, eat our chips. But I thought it was done well enough that it stuck. It was really well done. I did like that one. It was nice.
It did have a runner up, the Budweiser runner up with the
Which
Clydesdale
one?
protecting.
Yes.
Protecting the eagle, and then they had the actual Clydesdale and the eagle in the stadium.
Yeah. That was
cut to the stadium.
That was well done. They went full Budweiser went full patriot on that one. Like they're just like, how can we squeeze as much patriotism? And for the record, I was a huge fan. I almost cried on that one. I was like fist pumping the whole time because once I realized that it was going to be a bald eagle, like you kind of saw it coming. I'll admit I got a little goosebumpy when the eagle took off the horse. That was really nice.
Yeah, and the rancher at the end. Are you crying?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No,
yeah.
Sun's in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Next one, Dunkin'. So
My favorite.
Dunkin' Donuts, oh my gosh, brought in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Good Will Hunting, Seinfeld, Cheers, A Different World, and Friends, and a cameo with Tom Brady. Like they pulled this all into one. Did I catch it all? Like
I was just trying to think if there was anyone else. Yeah, The Different World. Yeah, Cheers, Seinfeld. Yeah, because Jason Alexander was in it. Obviously, the Good Will Hunting references. Yeah, Ted Danson from Cheers. Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, that was impressive. That was really, really impressive.
That was really satisfying. It was really satisfying.
Yeah. How do you like them apples? Love it. Okay.
How do you like them nuts? That was the line.
Oh, them nuts. Yeah. That's right.
I really enjoyed that one. It was good.
Yeah. Okay. This one, Megan and I were just looking at each other because we could not figure it out. The 80s karaoke Backstreet Boys, like it was just a blue screen with the karaoke going across for 30 seconds. Like they got their 30-second ad and it ended with Coinbase.
Yeah. Creative.
I just could. Creative? Really? Like I could not, I still can't figure this one out. Like what was the point? Just to make us talk about it right now?
I think so. Just be different. Like just to make people, just get your attention because it's a little bit different. Wasn't there one like a year ago or 2 years ago where it was just a black screen with the white letters on it or something like that? There was something like this. I think they're kind of following that trend where they're trying to break away and differentiate themselves in such a way that gets them attention, gets you more memorable or get us talking about it, which it did. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Did you see Will Shat?
That one I missed in real time because I was like, oh, it's William Shatner. Okay. He's selling, what was he selling? Oh, Raisin Bran. He's selling cereal.
Yeah.
Fiber. It might have aired
Fiber,
again.
That's what he was selling.
Fiber in cereal. And I by the time I think I saw it the second time, I got it. I was like, okay, that's good. That's a nice little twist on it. I did like that.
Yeah. All right. The last one that I came up with that I saw was relax your tight end. So that, did you see that?
Yeah. That's
very
great.
Creative for prostate cancer, right? Bunch of tight ends on this prostate cancer commercial. And then at the very end, relax your, with Gronk, of course. Was it Gronk?
They had a bunch of them on there. They had a bunch of old tight ends and former tight ends on there. Yeah.
Releasing their tight ends. So that was pretty creative.
I like that one.
Lots of fun there
because obviously it's a really good thing that people, make sure you get screened for prostate and colon cancer. Just funny story. When I turned 45, the Army told me like, hey, it's time. You got to go get screened. Get the goose from the doctor to get checked out. Well, I'm not normally delayed on things. I don't let things sit, but that one, obviously you're kind of like, oh, let's wait for the right time. Like there is one, but I waited long enough, maybe 6 or 9 months or something like that, where eventually I got the fit test offered. I got the letter. There was like, hey, you actually are qualified for the fit test. You don't have it in your family or history of this in your family. So you can provide a sample rather than getting screened that way. So, yeah, I've been doing that. That's kind of put it off. But as 50 approaches, I know I'm going to probably need a colonoscopy.
Gotta relax your tight end.
Like I will be relaxing my tight end soon, I'm sure, to make sure I'm good. There was another one. Cameos were kind of the key. I thought was the trend for a lot of the commercials I saw, including our favorite one, the Dunkin' one. That was my favorite one. But the other one was the Instacart. That's the one where Ben Stiller was doing an 80s like concert thing. It was really, really cheesy. The production value was so bad that it was really good. They captured it perfect. But I don't know, like Ben Stiller's just funny to me. Like I could watch him do almost anything and I would laugh, and it was great. Him just attempting to do different types of backflips off different props, and the way all the other characters were interacting with him, it was really good. Yeah. It was really funny.
And the fact that like he just didn't want to be outdone, so he just goes up and jumps off the top of the stage and lands on the drums below.
Fantastic.
There was another one too. What is it? Because they had the workup to the Super Bowl in these commercials. What was it, like halfway there insurance or something like that? Like, so it was a State Farm commercial. Oh, I forget who was in it, but it was, like I said, it was lead up to the Super Bowl. So in several of the football games in the playoffs, they had halfway there insurance, and they were just doing everything halfway. So yeah, it was a good series, and they had a couple cameos in there as well. But I thought that those were creative.
Well, somewhere in there was a football game, but the commercials delivered. They always do. Always worth watching.